Okay, my friends, I am in an exceptionally good mood today, and we're going to do another shocker du jour about this artery that I have here in my shop, sent to me by my good friend Greg Morrison. Now, this is what an artery wall looks like. You see these special little layers all the way down here? Very special. Now, let me come up and look at it. Okay, this is the artery wall. Look at how specific these layers are. The tunica externa, tunica media, tunica intima, the smooth muscles and so forth, all these little dots, endothelium and so forth. Now, let me show you what I have here as a gigantic one, just like this, only much, much bigger than yours or mine. Here it is right here. Now, I polished a spot on it so we could see these lines. That's what it is. It's an artery. And it's packed with red blood. It's eroded in here a little bit, but not a whole lot. On both ends, the other end is eroded quite a bit further in. But this is right here. It is what it is. If you can't tell, that is what we just saw a second ago. Look at this very carefully. You see this layer, then you see this wider layer, and then you see a layer. Well, what do you see here? This layer, then the wider layer, and then a little bitty layer. That's what it is. Let's go back and look at it again. You actually have the really skin right on the outside, and then you have a layer, a little bit thicker, then you have a wide layer, and then you have the smaller layers. Let's go back and look at it one more time. You see, you actually do have that little bitty layer out there, and then you have a wider layer, and then you have the big layer, and then you have the littler layers until you get into the blood. I don't think there's much doubt that is what it is. And because I have so many gigantic things, let me show you a fingertip that was on my property. I no longer own it, but here it is right here. Hold on. Where did it go? Fingertip. Oh, here it is. Now, that is a fingertip. All right. This, take your time and look at this carefully. That is the fingernail. And it's not in bad shape. It's chipped up a little bit. You see there's one layer here above all the rest. It's sort of peeled back a little bit, but not bad. And this piece was here when I first found it, and I chipped this piece off to get under it to get some blood, because you can't get blood out of there. But there is the vein and artery right there. They come straight through, and that round pad there is what rocks on the bone. This is 3 feet long from the front to the back. 3 feet, fingertip. And now, I also have the fingerprints. It was fingerprints on that fingertip. And it's called grip skin. And here's what happens with grip skin. Here it is right here. This is the piece that I smashed off. The fingernail runs right up in this area. Way. I mean, this is big. It's gigantic. And the fingerprints are right up next to the fingernail. Same on your hand. They're very close to the fingernail. These are sweat pores. You see the finger ridges? These are the ridges. The same as you say, no difference from your fingers. And these are the sweat pores. See the sweat pores? And this peels off. It just peeled right off. It didn't fracture a big chunk of rock. The thing just peeled off. It's about this thick. So that's the skin. It's called grip skin. Now, my thumb is about the same size as this. Watch. If I get my thumb about the same size as that thumb, which just happens to be mine, it's about the same width as one fingerprint ridge in your finger. You got a lot of fingerprint ridges. This is gigantic, 3 feet long, front to back. And that was DNA tested. DNA is human. Now, that's the mother's side. They don't do the father. Well, I didn't want them to do the father side. All I wanted was to be sure this was what I thought it was human. And I also had this, I had a lung done. I don't think I have them shown here. And then I had another big hand with the fingertip and all that, which was smaller than this. but it was still big. The hand itself was about 3 to 4 feet wide, just a hand. Now that's 3 feet, just a fingertip. That's just a tip, 3 feet long. That's just like right like that. Now, if you think that stuff was big, baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm going to give you something you never will forget. Because, baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. Check this out. What the hell is that? I got another shot of it. But I'm telling you, this is this. You see these little ripples up here? That's these little ripples here. Underneath that is this, which is this right here. And then below that, I will show you the rest in a second. This stuff on this Earth and then in this universe is staggeringly large. All right, this is what I just showed you, what these people are pointing at. That is the ripples of the skin. This is my belt. It's virtually identical. I'll show you. You have the top of the belt, which is the skin, all that wrinkly stuff I just showed you. But you got to see it in the microscope. And then this is the fluid-filled highway. Now, because it wants to have some fluids, it absorbed the tanning fluids and turned like a certain color. I'll show you in a second. And then below that is all this. You see these little lines and fibers and so forth. After you get through the fluid-filled highway, you get down into where all of the balls and straps are. So don't forget that's that. Now here's what it is in my belt. Let me get a better picture of my belt. Here it is right here. All right, there's my belt. You see, remember I told you the fluid-filled highway? Here it is right here. And it took on the color of the stain or whatever they put on here to tan the hide. Now right up to this layer here is the skin over the top of the fluid-filled highway. So let's go back to the other skin and that fluid-filled highway. Because below that you get into, first of all, there's a little bit of a layering, and then you get into all these balls and straps, and then way down at the other end we can see the straps. Now let me go back to this. Let's not get lost here. All right, so don't forget, here's all that squirrely stuff at the top so you can stretch your skin. That's how you can stretch your skin, and they unwrinkles and wrinkles. That's the way it works. There's the fluid-filled highway. Of course, now it's empty. Then below that, you get that little bit of a membrane-ish thing, and then you get into the balls and straps. All right, one more time into my belt. There's the wrinkly little spot at the top that can wrinkle and unwrinkle and do this kind of stuff. And there's that fluid-filled highway. Now this one is filled with whatever that tanning agent is now. Down here you have balls and straps. Now you don't see them. But when I show you the other side of the belt, which is right there, you see all the straps? Every one of those balls has one of these straps attached to it, and each strap has literally thousands of fibers. That's why a belt will, you can pull leather for the whole rest of your life and it won't break. Normally, very, very rare that you can break leather. So that's what all these balls and straps are inside of here. Now it's split leather, so they crack it open. It's this stuff right here, and these are all the little tiny straps. You can see them really good right there, but all up here, you don't see them at all. You see something that looks like this. But when you get down here where you can see all the little strappy things, that's where you can see it good. And rather than go through a microscope again, well, there they are right there. That's just the hole, and the thing goes through there, and they just sort of pull. But every black ball has one of these, and there's a million zillion black balls in there, and every one of them has a little strap. It's if you knew how many straps were in here, and then if you multiplied each strap times thousands of fibers, it's got to be trillions. I'm serious. It's just unbelievable how many fibers are in this thing. This is just the edge of the loop. This is just like this much. Little tiny piece right there. biology is just stunning. See, and there's some more skin. The skin all over your body, it gets different, and it gets different as you age, but that's basically a rock, and that's basically skin. And then they're basically the same. And so is this one, which is basically a little bigger. So that's basically it. All right, let's check this out now. That's the size of these people. All right, here's the size of the skin. That's the fluid-filled highway. How much blood do you think it would take if this was muscle to make a muscle work? Which would be, I don't know, 100 feet thick or more. Underneath there, you need a lot of blood. So how big would the blood tube be that would do that? You saw the one I showed you of mine. I don't think that would be big enough. That wouldn't be enough. I wonder how big it would be. Maybe it would be this big. Maybe it'd be like that. These guys looking up at this thing. I wonder how that happened. That's all blood running out of there, my brothers. Right out of there. Now, how big is that tube? I don't know. It's probably about as big as they are. Maybe 6 feet, 5 feet, 4 feet. This is all red blood running out. That's an artery. And that right there is the artery. And it's just all red blood running out of here. They gush out. Red blood runs. Now, so don't forget, this is all muscle. Remember the guy there standing in front of that? See these layers? You see these layers? It's the same stuff. How they can miss this? I can't believe they can miss this. It's just impossible to be missed. Plus, I have DNA reports on this. Excellent quality DNA. When I got under this, it was saturated with blood. And you can see, this is what happens underneath the fingertips. They're just loaded with blood. This is all blood. And I went right into the artery, and I took red, good, solid, it's not, when I say solid, it was like, you do it with a drill. You drill it out so you get some coarse particulates out of there. Let me go that way, because it wasn't really completely 100% dry, and it wasn't wet by any means. So it was like in the middle of, and it came out sort of coarsish stuff. And I took it from down inside. It was not contaminated. It was excellent quality. Negative controls were negative. The DNA tests were done 10 years ago, and the guy from the DNA lab says he stands behind the analysis. The only thing is, I was the one that took the stuff out of here. So if I lied about it, I lied about it. But what he said was, it was so dense and so excellent quality that it was either actual from this rock or somebody's blood, basically. That's how I interpreted what he said. That may not have been his exact words, but I was very pushy to make sure that I understood that this was no possibility that this was wrong. And I believe that was how we came to finish that discussion, that it was absolutely 100% certain that it was human mitochondrial DNA, which is the mother side, from these regions. I can show you the report. I'll show you the report right now. And that it was dense and excellent quality in the two things, this one and the lung. And the lung is just like a lung. You could almost transplant the thing. It's like perfect. Blood just drooled out of there. All right, this report is online, but it's from 2015. And it was 3 mud fossil samples, and I did the actual extraction. It says DNA extraction. That means they pulled the DNA out of the samples that I sent them, which were the particulates that I extracted. They did not extract the bits and pieces out of the rocks. I did that. Now, this was to get DNA and see what they could find, and these were the 3 samples. 36-inch tip was that big fingertip, a lung, which is like perfect, and a mud tip, which was heavily transitioned, but it made it through the DNA. Now, this is all how they did it, elutions, and this is that, and the positive and negative, this and that. the negative controls were all negative, and 2 of them were dense and 1 of them not so dense. This was the one that was very heavily transitioned. Now, these are all the different primers that they used to see what they could coax out of there for the bacterial analysis of the proteins, and that tells them what the DNA was somehow. And it's here it is right here. The products were submitted to Eaton Biosciences Inc. for DNA sequencing. Primers were used to generate the products, also used in DNA sequencing. Excellent quality DNA sequence obtained from the 36-inch tip sample and the lung sample. The quality of the sequence obtained from the 36-inch tip and the lung sample was, on average, less using a different primer. So the one primer they used, they got really good results. The other one wasn't as good. And here's what it came back. Homo sapien mitochondrial cytochrome B gene. Homo sapien mitochondrial D-loop region for both of them, the tip and the lung. And this was all with these, this is serious stuff. They came up and they found all the CTAG sequences, the amino acids and so forth that are in here. And this is the guy that I worked with, Tom Purchenko. Excellent guy to work with. If you ever need anything done like this, I don't know what he'll do anymore. I know he got attacked for doing it. Everybody did. They came after him, so I'm going to talk about this, and nobody would do it. I tried to get a whole bunch of other people to do some more DNA tests. They refused. Absolutely refused. Nobody would do it anymore. And I don't know if Tom will either, because I sort of approached him again, knowing that it was not a good experience for him. And I don't think he was interested, but I could be wrong. Hopefully now we can talk about this openly. There's the problem. You talk about it, people attack you, and they can attack you and destroy your life, because academia will come up and stand behind them and say, "Oh, the guy's an idiot," and then they will put you in a box like they've done to me. I have 209,000 subscribers. Tops I ever get is a few thousand hits. Maybe 1%, 2% tops. I mean, 2% is not a bad hit thing for me in the first couple of weeks. And then it stops after that. It's all over. But, and they've got me in some kind of an algorithm that does not allow me to be put into the general population. Because it's virtually every single time it's the same people, which are nice. They're nice people. But, like I say, I really want to reach a broader audience, and I don't know how to do that. If President Trump is serious, and plus I will gladly donate time and videos and explanations and expertise as a consultant. I don't want any money. I don't want any obligations. I want to just be able to say, here's what I see, and then what do you think? And then you go from there. And I'm going to have a book to back up all my videos. And the videos will be like I'm doing today. They're going to be, I got a lot of stuff, so, I can do these forever. Oh, by the way, look at this. All of the bases in DNA and RNA have now been found in meteorites. Well, guess what? Bennu, that they just picked up all of they picked up a sample from Bennu, which is an asteroid. I know what it is. It's a heart, literally a heart. And they came back, when they looked at the sample, it has the sarcomeres, which are the heart little pinchers, and it has 2 layers of phospholipids, which are phosphates from the phospholipid layers, and they call it the phosphate surprises. Ooh, look at those 2 layers of phosphates, and look at that little crunchy thing in the middle. Wow. Well, guess what? That was from a heart. It's here on Earth. There's no way they can deny that. Absolutely no way. It's been here over a year already. And we're paying for this as taxpayers. It costs way over $1 billion just to get the thing back here. Now they wanted to study it for years, when I already, before they even came back with it, I said, I know what that is. It's a heart, and you're going to come back with blood, something bloody. Absolutely did. Now, I told you they just came back from Bennu with a sample. Look at this. This is heart muscle. This is from a heart attack victim. These are what they're supposed to look like right here, not ripped like that. There's a layer of phosphates here, and in between is the red muscle tissue. Let me show you what they came back with from Bennu. All right, first of all, here's Bennu. Here's Bennu. This is a heart. And I know from everybody I've talked to, which is anatomists and everybody else, and all the mud fossils, they almost always break off right here, which is this floppy part where the heart can do all this, and it's just gooey and gummy. And it comes down to where the valves are, and they break off. This is the plumbing. This is what the heart looks like when you take off the plumbing. And that's what I talk with autopsy people, and they say, yeah, it just happens. It comes right off. And I had another guy who had some kind of heart valve procedure, and he said, yeah, they just take it off and they put it back on, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, this is it right here, and that's it. Same thing. And so Psyche is another one, only this one got close to something really, really hot, and it cooked it enough to where it smelted the outside of it and it's turned it to metal, because this is nothing more than blood. Blood is almost 100% metal, except it's plasma, and that cooks off and you end up with the metal. But you got to be up over 2,700, 3,000 degrees, somewhere around there. Now, you see this right here? You see that? That's the tendon that locks the muscle into the side of this. So there'd be a piece of tendon around here to hold it together. Now, what's the tendon? Right there. That's where the tendon is. And all of that gooey stuff gone. Plumbing gone. Right down into the valves, which are right here. So from here down, we got from here up goes away. So what do we end up? We end up here with these three holes like this, 3, 4. They're right up in the area. Here they are right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are tubes coming out of here. These aren't craters. Now, don't they have anybody at NASA or anywhere that can understand what they're seeing? Now, they landed on here and took a sample back to Earth. And like I said, it's a sarcomere. It's muscle sarcomeres. Remember this pattern? These are heart muscle sarcomeres. That was a heart that they were landed on. They took some of this back. And I know the chemistry's right, because they said what the chemistry was. It is perfect. And here it is right here. These are the sarcomeres. I'm a hand screamer. Ah! What do you see? I see sarcomeres. They say, ooh, look at this white stuff. Wow, that's a phosphate surprise. This is under a certain type of lighting. They can see it glowing white. Here it is glowing white underneath the sarcomeres. Here's the sarcomeres and a glowing white on top. That's a membrane underneath and on top of the muscle sarcomeres. And that is what they brought back to Earth after spending $1 billion plus to go out and take it off of this heart. Now, can we accept reality? Reality is, it's tough. I'm not saying it is easy. I'm not saying it's easy at all. Because you got to stop everything you thought was silly and find out everything that you really think is right is silly. Because the things they make up to cover their tracks on this is absolutely hysterical. If you look at it from the... And then you look at this kind of stuff, and they say, oh, they must have just making up silly things to scare kids and tell them giants are going to come after you. No, I don't think so, my friends. There was giants here, and these were the giants that were moving the things like a Baalbek and all that stuff, these gigantic things that they moved around, and they could never understand how they could do such things. Well, if you had creatures that were, literally, and I'm not kidding you, you're going to say it's crazy, but they were miles tall. Miles tall. For them, picking up these little things would have been like, nah, let's just build another castle. Oh, it took me almost a whole day. All right, this is the pattern that you see in the heart, and there's these little valves And then there's tubing sticking out here and there. Now, can we see that? I think we can. Whoops. This is what you're seeing. You see these tubes down here? That's a tube sticking out. That's a tube sticking out. That is a tube sticking out. Alright, this is another valve. I don't know where, but you see how it's real red around this one? So I'm sure this is the artery side. This appears to be the vein side. Now, this little flared looking stuff up here, that's how this thing is literally glued to all that floppy stuff that's above. And that's how your heart can, it's moving all the time. So there's a real serious amount of glue around the top, and that either dries out and just breaks off, or they literally fall off. Even the autopsies guy, they say the same thing. Yeah, it just comes right off. Now, I mean, I don't think it just falls off, but once at a certain point, it becomes easy to remove. Let's go with that. And where was the heart? Well, I guess I closed the heart up. I lost my heart in San Francisco. Well, I don't know wherever it went. How easily I can lose things is absolutely amazing. This is probably the best shot I've got of the heart to show you. There's a tube over here, there's a tube, and they come down, and there's other ones. There's a bunch of other tubes I'll show you in a second anatomically. But from this angle, this is what we're seeing. Now they lock into the heart, right into those valves. Your heart is doing this all day long, 24 hours a day. It's like jelly. It's like jelly, and it's sealed to this surface with this literally glue. And when they dry out, or probably in space when they're irradiated, they just come apart, and that goes somewhere, I don't know where. And you end up with here and right down into the valves. And that's what you got. It's very, very obvious when you look at it. As if I can find it again. Like I say, I easily lose things. But anyway, this is Bennu, and these are the tubes. Here's right here. And here's what that's it. And this again is the phosphate layers and the sarcomeres in between. It's here on Earth. It's been here for a year. And like I say, this is way over $1 billion. And I'm showing all the things that they want to see. I can't imagine why they won't talk to me. And here's that line that they break on right across here. A friend of mine found one. He saw blood leaking out right here, and it was a rock. And he popped it, and it just opened right up, and the blood was still fresh in there. I'm not kidding you. Blood lasts almost forever, and the red blood almost never hardens up. It can almost always be very, very quickly rehydrated. And I showed that with my lung and so forth. You just put a little water on there, and 2 seconds later you got blood, literally. It's a blood. It's not mud, it's blood. So I'm hoping President Trump is going to come on board here, to straighten this out. We need to, it is what it is. If you can't handle the truth, I can't help you. But it is what it is. What's this? Yeah, see all the DNA is in the meteorites and so forth. I showed that. Bennu, it's got DNA in there. There's no question there's going to be DNA in there. They'll find something. They can find it in anything now. When I had my test done, it was 10 years ago. It's the first one in the world that I know of to have DNA tests done on ancient humans, way ancient. And I was absolutely the first one to claim ancient human giants and DNA tested, which they were. You can't dismiss this. The stuff is here. And it's easy to retest. There's nothing here that can't be retested. And remember I showed you the black and the red, and like this here? This is going to be red because it's artery. Well, yeah, the red is the artery, the black is the vein. Look at this. This is up in Iceland. Here they are in a cave. These people are looking up here. Look at that red thing up there. Gee, I wonder what's going on there. I wonder what's up with that. Well, I can tell you, that is an artery, and that, my friends, is a vein. What they are in, I'm not sure. It's a cavern, but you see all the red blood runs out. Red blood just keeps running. The black hardens up. And plus it has valves in there. The red in the artery side, there's no valves. They go any way it comes, they go that way, this way, that inside. The black, she said, no come back. It goes that way and no coming back. And because it's used. This is not used until after it gets out of this artery system through the capillaries into the veins. Then it's used blood. It doesn't go back. You see this? This is a Triassic footprint inside of the Triassic rock. There's the black cap, was over the top of this footprint, which was pushed down through the red bed. This is gray clay. It was pushed down through the red bed and then covered with a black cap. So these two, no question whatsoever, and this came down virtually at the same time. Flawlessly, this mud, it's just nothing more than mud. And then the foot pushed the gray clay, which was on top, down through the mud. So they were both wet at the same time. And this made a perfectly flawless footprint. And then the black cap came back down. And this was the Triassic. Red bed, gray clay, black cap. And I even have feet from creatures here that were not like humans. And Yale says the same thing. There was things here that are not like they were before. I mean, they claim it was life before any life existed on Earth. But they claim it was all jellyfish. It's clearly not jellyfish. And neither is my good friend here, Caesar. That's a goose. Waterfowl of some sort. You see that? That's his feathers. This stuff preserved so magnificently, it's unbelievable. And it is unbelievable. I have to agree. Very hard for me to get my head around it when I found it, but I keep finding more and more and more. Not people find it every day everywhere. That's his neck. If you get it in the right light, you can see it. But it's transitioned. That's what nucleophilic transition is. But there's the center of his neck. That is an artery. And over there, that's where the vein is. Again, the veins clamp off. You don't see them like you do the arteries. This would have been where his neck was. You see it? That's his throat coming up, just exactly where it is. But he died laying like this. So it gave this impression for some reason, but that's where his throat is. There's no question. Nobody dug that out and scraped this. Here's his little nose hole. Here's his eye. You can see, you can actually see a little bit of his eye when you get it right in the right microscope. And he's got this beak or bill or whatever they call it. And this is nothing more than carriages and carotid. And it's the same exact material as fascia. And my paper was fascia facilitated fossilization. The fascia is what made these things fossilize so perfectly. That's the whole key, is the fascia. Like even this bone, this has fascia wrapped around it. All the flesh boiled away and it turned it into this red bed. That's what happened. All the flesh on the creatures boiled away from the boiling oceans because we were almost hit by Venus. MIT just had something out about the oceans had boiled, but they go back 3 billion years or something. That's just not the way. And then Yale also put out exceptional preservation due to silica-rich oceans, and I agree, because when Venus almost hit Earth, all the silicon from the siliceous ooze on the ocean floor came up to the surface. And then it actually created things that, like this heart. This is a heart. You see that? That is a heart right there. That's the aorta. That's the I think it's the left ventricle wall. There's a spot right there where there's a tube coming in, and up the top, this was a heart, but it turned into silicon because it was dense with silicon in the waters. In certain areas, turned exactly into silicon. And even like Mitchell Hedges' skull, That is real. That's true. Have you ever seen Mitchell Hedges' skull? I'm going to show you something. And if this doesn't convince you, I don't know what I can say. All right, here's the deal. That's the Mitchell Hedges skull. Oh, they just carved out. That's nothing. And they absolutely no question whatsoever. They say. Well, I'm going to tell you, no question whatsoever is real. They say, oh, look at the teeth. Nobody could have made teeth, or they couldn't have grown like that. I do agree. They're pretty good. Now, at this time, they may have been engineering these people. So these may be engineered teeth. I have no idea. They're pretty damn perfect. And I saw that first and I said, this is crazy. Then I looked and I said, what's going on here? And I looked at his nose. I said, what's going on with his nose? And then I looked at all this stuff here. And, I'm a detail guy. And I can't, that threw me off. And I said, it can't possibly be real. Look at how perfect they are. It's just stunning. But once I decided what happened here, and I could see something going on inside the skull. You see this here? I think they call it the cerebellum, I can't remember. But it's this right here. Now look at the difference between the two. And then of course you look at all these fibers. You see these fibers snaking over this way, up and over the top. What's this doing? Snaking up over this way and up and over the top. They're exactly identical. Identical. No difference. Nobody got inside this skull and put these fibers in here. And nobody would have known to do it. Now, this ball in the back here, I can't remember what the name is. So let's just go with cerebrum. It went down this way and crushed. Why would it do that? And left a big gap here, where you only have a small gap here. You got a big one now. The reason is because he died laying on his face. That's why the lip is back. So he died laying on his face like that. All right, the brain shifted downward towards the ground, and his lip curled back and his nose pushed back. That's why that's here. Now, how the teeth got so perfect, je ne sais pas. I have no idea. All right, so he died laying on his face, and all of these fibers are virtually identical to these fibers. Look at this here. You see this? You see these ones here? They're back here. They're a little pushed up a little bit. They're scrunched up a little bit because the other part's scrunched up. They were here nice. They were over in this area perfect. Now they're a little crunched up. Now, this mandible, the mouth here, the lower jaw, pivots. It pivots in this thing. It is what it is. It was bones at one time, and for some reason, this particular spot, this extreme amount of silicon, invaded and took over everything here. I mean everything. That's not normal. That's way unnormal. All right, they will take over most things, but this took over most of everything here, except fascia. There's some fascia pieces and connective tissue down here. And then there's the blood up here, some more blood, but it's pretty well taken over as glass. And I have one here that I cut. This one here. This is another heart, and I cut it. And this is literally the heartstrings and the center of the heart. And again, this one broke off at the top like they normally do. So this would have been down here somewhere. And the top plumbing broke off. This is very unusual. Usually they break off right along that seam right there. Right along here, right along here, right along here, and they break off, and the plumbing just pops right off. And that was the seam I showed you right here. Yeah. So the oceans were super saturated with silicon. That is pretty well established now. And again, nobody's disagreeing with that anymore. Where do you see this? This is a mind blower. A mind blower. Anyway, yeah, nobody's disagreeing with that anymore. And Yale says it was because of silica-rich oceans. They're exceptionally preserved. And they say it was worldwide strata. Worldwide strata. Worldwide. They say they don't understand how the fossils thing. These are the things. This is Derek Briggs was the guy I gave all my research to years before this, and he just. Well, I'm not going to get into what he did, but anyway, he did write this paper about the things that I sent him. It was basically the same paper, how they fossilized, and you know, the heavy on the silicon worldwide. And they claim it was a Triassic, but they go back to 580 million years ago. Nothing like that. Everything I showed you came right off the surface of the Earth. I know the dates. I know everything because I studied Velikovsky, and he studied every culture on the face of the Earth, and they all had the same story. So if President Trump can handle the truth, well, let's find out. So far, I've had nobody who can handle it. There's nobody at all. I don't know, maybe President Trump is the key to getting this thing out. That's what I'm hoping for. Because it's even like this here. This, I had police and lawyers call me about this because I really wanted to force Yale to look at this, and they refused, and they said it would have to be scanned and all this, and I did have it scanned down at the University of Texas in Austin after forcing them, literally forcing them, and it was just terrible, and then they would refuse to talk to me. And so I kept emailing them and saying, you know, what happened was the police called me and said, "You're threatening people." I said, "I'm not threatening anybody." They said, "Oh, yes, police people from University of Texas, Austin, said you're threatening them." And I said, "I'm not threatening anybody. What are you talking about?" And he said, they said you don't want to hurt anybody. I said, "I don't want to hurt anybody." And then I probably said something like, "I'm not here to hurt anybody's career or their position or anything," and that I probably did say. So they turned it around on me, say I was threatening them, that I was going to hurt them. And the police called, and then I had done videos being very critical, and then the lawyers called. And at that point, I just didn't have enough evidence to support everything I said in a just undeniable way, so I had to withdraw. But that was over 10 years ago. But this is the head. Look at this. You see that? This is cartilage in the guy's nose. Who's going to carve that? Nobody. This red blood is coming out of the tissue part. Here is cartilage, no blood. Here, right on the edge, you got blood on the edges of your nose. Right at there's a little spot right there on each side. That's where that blood's coming from, red blood. Red and black is the colors of blood. Bone black is from the marrow and so forth that's in the bone layers. This guy's got a cap on. You can slide a playing card up underneath here. Scott Walter showed this, well, met Arlie called Jim Burchell at somewhere down where they wanted to see some of these petroglyphs on the walls. So that's all Scott Walter cared about. But Jim wanted him to take a look at this. In less than 1 minute on national TV, absolutely no question whatsoever, I'm 100% certain, carved head, they just carved it. Let's go out and look at the petroglyphs. And Jim didn't stand up or say anything. He just said, okay. So I got involved, and it turned out to be an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. And they pushed us around, and I confronted Scott, and we went back and forth, and finally he just said, "Look, I'm the expert. You're nobody. See you later. Have a nice day." And I expect some apologies from some of these people. It's time they realize what they did and how they have obstructed reality. And they should say, look, let's take another look at it. I don't even care about the apology. I just care about, let's not deny it anymore. Let's not hide from it and say, well, as long as I can hide out from it, maybe I'll die before they find out I was a liar. But that's what it's become now, lies. This is not accidental anymore. Originally, I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, you guys might have missed these things. You could have missed them. No, they didn't miss them. They just don't want to hear anything about it because it upsets their world. And it's the same with the light research. We can accelerate the speed of light, no problem whatsoever. Boom, just like that, for almost nothing. And it is accelerated. This is light before it accelerates fully. It's just beginning to accelerate. And then all of a sudden, pew, and we can actually see the particle, which is a particle of light, which is a photon. That is the particle of light streaming down to the Venturi, where we had created fission and fusion. All this is denied to be seen by the people we trusted to teach us the truth about everything. Now Trump is going to stand up for this, I hope. And I expect to hear from somebody about this. They should know about my work. Somebody should know about it. And I know a bunch of people said, yeah, we've been trying to contact Trump. We've been trying, and I did too. Finally, I gave up. I said, nobody responds. Well, I could spend all day long doing that, and I get no response whatsoever. None, zero. So what do? I just keep doing this, and I'm hoping some of you guys can get through to some people. Just keep posting. I'm on X. Roger Spur, Roger, whatever. It's not Mudfossil University. It's Spur, Roger Spur, something like that. I don't even bother going there because nobody comments any up there either. I'm like in a little world of my own. And that's what most people would say, all those PhDs with those, I call it PhDolia. It's the failure to be able to see what's right in front of your face. So, just like this, if this is true, everything in physics changes, and it is true. Axions are the dipoles that I talked about. It's time for us to examine these things. That's all I'm asking for. And I'm going to be doing the next video. I'm hoping to finally get around to doing this about these walls in Peru and how the fill. They put fill in here. They didn't just build a wall against the mountain. That's fill. So that changes a lot of the way I was thinking. Well, not a lot, but a little. All right, we'll talk later. Thank you.